up to an hour with questions. So I'm going to try to get through my remarks. I think, as Janet said, thank you for that nice invitation and introduction. I have done a lot in my career, so I was trying to think about how to summarize some of the trends and issues in information management to share with you today. So I'm going to start. I hope this works. Yes. Did I? Thank you. Asiemna Siaya. And these words were shared with me by members of the Musqueam First Nation in Vancouver, home to the University of British Columbia, my alma mater, and where I currently live and work. The university is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam First Nation, and they have been on this land for the past 10,000 years. The university is much younger. We have been there 100 years. And so we do work in close partnership with the community. And as you can see on the map, UBC is at the tip of the point, but the territory includes all of Vancouver. And the Musqueam's revitalization efforts for their language, Hunkaminam, is not unlike the Maori, albeit on a much smaller scale. Asiemna Siaya literally translates as, "Oh, respected friends and relatives." But the meaning is closer to the Maori phrase, "Tihe Mariara, I Naiwi, I Namana, I Nareo a Ranaterama." To the prestigious people gathered, to the languages of our chiefs, I breathe the breath of life. So, kia ora. I think these are very fitting words for a conference focused on connecting our past to our future in order to converge and to thrive. Try this again. So in my remarks today, I hope to cover some general trends in the information ecosystem and to encourage you to look beyond the day-to-day activities that keep us all occupied in our libraries and to reflect on the potential role that libraries could and must play in light of the challenges and the opportunities of the 21st century, to continue to meet our mission of serving our users however and wherever they may be. As someone who's had the good fortune of traveling to many countries when I was the president of Ifla, I would like to share with you then some of my thoughts on library trends and the role of libraries in that future. And during that term, I had hoped to visit New Zealand, but it just never worked out for various reasons. And so I'm really delighted to be here now with you, and I wish to thank LIANZA and the organizing committee for their invitation and their warm welcome. And although I'm making this trip post-presidency, I will be referencing some themes that I promoted on behalf of libraries, and I think which are still very relevant today. One of the key themes that I promoted during my presidential term was one of collaboration. Not coincidentally, a theme for your conference. Some may say that libraries have always been at the center of connecting and collaborating, drawing in many resources and expertise to serve and benefit all our users. And I would argue that in today's fast-changing and lean times, more than ever, we need to continue to work collectively to meet the challenges that we face. I went the wrong way. Okay, there. This is a point of view shared by UBC's newest president, Arvind Gupta, who said, "The world seems like it's becoming more and more specialized, but it is the people who can cut across these silos who will be in more demand." And he continued, "It seems to me that people who can understand the marriage of technology with content, suddenly that seems like a very powerful place to be. So instead of working in specialized silos, greater gains can be made from looking at form and function horizontally." And to me, I think that's the space that libraries can occupy. In some ways, we are already naturally inclined to do this. The nature of technology has led us to many collaborations, both in person and virtual. We are living in a globally connected environment with rapid changes in technology impacting people in every country and every strata of society. According to IBM, 2.5 exabytes of new data are created daily. For those of you who don't know exabytes, as I did, that's a numeral 1 followed by 18 zeros. We are now moving into zettabytes of data, a 1 followed by 21 zeros. The order of magnitude of data being produced is staggering. IBM also estimates that 90% of the world's data has been created in just the last 2 years. If social media sites were countries, Facebook would be the third most populated country. As of June 2014, Facebook now has 1.2 billion users worldwide, just shy of India's population of 1.25 billion. That was June. I expect maybe today, Facebook is probably in number 2 spot. As you know, our youth are digital natives, and in some ways, these technologies and mobile devices have become almost permanent body appendages. This is one of my favorite examples that illustrate how much has changed in a short time. If you look at these 2 photos, both of which show crowds gathered for the introduction of a new pope in Rome, the top shot was taken in 2005 by an Associated Press photographer when Pope Benedict was introduced. Now look at the bottom shot taken by another AP photographer at those gathered for the election of Pope Francis. 8 years ago, the iPhone had not yet been announced. In 2013, events around the world are being captured by smartphone photography and omnipresent digital devices, such as the iPad you see there. So increasingly, people expect to be able to work, learn, study, and access information wherever and whenever they want. And when it comes to technology, we are often riding this speeding train of continuing change that's just pulling out of the station. So what do these changes in technology mean for libraries? For many libraries, the move from print to electronic is having dramatic impacts on service, both positive and negative. An individual's adoption of the latest in technology has generally outstripped libraries' financial capacity to keep pace with the latest technological trends. Further compounding this, most researchers and students do not use the range of sophisticated search tools that are available in libraries. Familiarity and convenience keep them using the same small set of online resources, no matter what questions they have, which is unfortunate, since most people's information and literacy skills are suspect, and most don't know how to do thorough and comprehensive searches. At every library in countries around the world, transformations are taking place to accommodate these changes. Research libraries are actively engaged in and support the full cycle of knowledge discovery, use, preservation, and sharing in diverse contexts of the university's mission. Public libraries are looking at designing makerspaces and more community programming. And national libraries are focusing on the preservation of a fast appearing and fast disappearing digital documentary heritage. Although the number of newly created digital bits and bytes is staggering, one of the really positive aspects of the digital revolution is that it enables us to bridge cultures and communities more easily. And I just thought I'd take one example of a geographic but multilingual area relatively close to New Zealand. This is the ASEAN University Library Network, which includes 10 countries from Southeast Asia. And this collaborative network of university libraries serves almost 600 million people and aims to disseminate information more easily among the member libraries. And I know that discussions are underway to include a digital information repository program, and to collaborate with other national libraries, and I believe with the National Library of New Zealand as well. So the geographic boundaries that once impeded our ability to connect have all but disappeared, and anyone with an internet connection can explore and communicate with others around the world from their desktop, their tablet, or their mobile phone. And the very nature of collaboration necessitates collective problem solving. So drawing from multiple experts and resources in our communities, that results in the sharing of best practices and tapping into sharing the costs as well. And most importantly, librarians as a collective have often formed new coalitions to advocate, to influence, create or design change in ways that keep our profession moving with the future. Now, I'm going to speak a bit about digital preservation because I think this is becoming very, very important in our documentary heritage in the world. It's a good example of this type of collaboration that is taking place. National libraries, which have been leading the charge for digital preservation, cannot do it all alone. I think public libraries are well placed to take on preservation responsibility for the digital content that is important for the communities that they serve. Similarly, for academic libraries, we have a role to play in preserving content produced by scholars and students. So in this context, cooperation and sharing of expertise are absolutely critical. We are all aware that in the case of the preservation of digital works, by the time the damage is perceptible, the work may be irretrievably lost. And this is just a local example from my library where we work with dozens of Aboriginal languages in the province which are on the verge of extinction. Communities are left with major gaps in their cultural identity since there are fewer and fewer fluent speakers. Several First Nations groups have begun digitization programs to capture and preserve knowledge from native speakers before it is too late. So therefore, our UBC Library is collaborating with several of these communities to help them digitize from their audio cassettes the oral histories and the language of their different communities. And I think this type of collaboration combines library expertise and the cultural heritage that we have in our province. And I think it's what creative collaboration is all about. On the international stage, I like to just say a few words about a preservation strategy that is called PERSIST. And PERSIST stands for Platform to Enhance the Sustainability of the Information Society Transglobally. That just rolls off the tongue, when I say it. So in early 2014, UNESCO launched the PERSIST project with the aim of bringing together stakeholders to begin to tackle some of the key issues in developing and implementing sustainable digital projects together. The official launch was preceded by a UNESCO Memory of the World conference, which was held in Vancouver in 2012. We had over 600 participants from around the world, representing the decision makers from the heritage sector, from governments, and from the private sector, including the technology companies like Microsoft and Google. And I'm pleased to say that they all enthusiastically endorsed working together to slay the dragon of obsolete technology and disintegrating digital bits. Over the years, it has become obvious that there is insufficient awareness and engagement between industry and heritage institutions about the relative concerns of the other, and that there needed to be a common platform to discuss digital preservation. So within the PERSIST project, there are 3 separate streams of action: policy development, selection of content, and technical issues. So for policy and for technical issues, we are going to be meeting to discuss how to move those forward. But the piece that I'm really interested in, and that Ifla is spearheading in this joint project, is content selection. Deciding, so which digital content is worthy of being preserved? Do we need to preserve and keep every bit of digital content that is created, all those exabytes and terabytes, whatever, of data. I was struck by some statistics I saw after a FIFA World Cup game. I don't know if you are interested in New Zealand with football and soccer. There was a game, the semifinal game last July of the FIFA tournament between Brazil and Germany. And Brazil lost quite badly in that game. However, during the game and 2 hours after the game, there were 35 million tweets sent out about the game. So I guess my question is, do we really need to keep 35 million tweets about one game to let future researchers understand how the game went and what its impact was? I'm skeptical. But interestingly, I was in Washington last week, and I was speaking to Tom Blanton, who is the director of the National Security Archives in Washington. And he is passionate about obtaining and preserving all the emails and all the tweets that have come out from the presidential offices and also from the national security agencies and departments. And his view is that we should keep it all. We should get it, keep it all, and then let computer algorithms in the future decide what is important or not to keep. But since the storage costs are so low, since we have the ability to access and to gather this information, why not? So you can see that there are some very different conflicting views about digital preservation, which content should be preserved. As you know, the Library of Congress is harvesting all tweets as well since 2007. And they harvest 500 million tweets every day. So those of you tweeting right now, those are all going to be kept by the Library of Congress, at least in the near future. Is this just digital landfill? This is what I call digital landfill. Or is this information really going to benefit future generations to have access to all of this digital stuff out there? So these are really interesting questions, and we are dealing with them both at the international and the national level, and I would like to hear your opinions about that as well. So working together, UNESCO, Ifla, and the International Council on Archives, hopefully during the next year we're going to be developing some principles or some guidelines around these issues of digital preservation, what should be preserved, and some of the technology issues as well. So PERSIST is just one example of an international initiative that really relies on collaboration, not just within libraries, but across the information sector. But on a more sobering note, some of you may be aware that the World Intellectual Property Organization, or WIPO, recently held another meeting to discuss copyright issues related to exceptions for libraries and archives. And this was the latest in a line of WIPO meetings to try to adopt a legal instrument to protect copyright exceptions for libraries. I attended the first one of these meetings in 2011 to present the case for libraries on behalf of Ifla. WIPO is composed of 180 member states who discuss all the rights-related issues. So because I was representing an NGO, I had 3 minutes to present my case to the group. So much of the lobbying work done at WIPO is really done in the corridors and the twisting of arms that takes place. But this recent meeting, unfortunately, ended with no agreements on any topics of interest to libraries. And we really do wonder whether WIPO and its Committee on Copyright is really capable of making progress in the face of so many oppositions from various countries, especially from the developed countries. The European Union was very much against developing a legal instrument for copyright, saying that they already have those in their own national legislation, so why do we need an international instrument? So I think it just reinforces how important it is to continue to collaborate and to share our collective expertise and our energy to advocate for digital initiatives that are really important for libraries. I'd like to now take a few minutes to talk about the Ifla Trend Report, which I hope is not unfamiliar to you. This report was launched last year in Singapore at the conference, and it is really the result of 12 months consultation with experts and stakeholders from a range of disciplines. We had educators, we had lawyers, we had economists, sociologists, and only one librarian really who was involved in the initial discussion to develop the content behind these trends. And it identifies 5 trends. It identifies 5 trends in the global information environment, which span many aspects such as education, privacy, engagement, and technological transformation. So I'm just going to look at these trends, hopefully. These are the 5, but I'll look at them individually as well so that we just have a quick update on each one. Yes, good. So trend 1. New technologies will both expand and limit who has access to information. Information fluency and especially digital literacy will be mandatory in the future, not elective. We see this already at our schools, where young children already know how to use a mobile device before their first day of school. And a greater divide will occur between those who have access to information resources and those who do not. And similarly, people who lack information technology skills will face barriers in a growing range of areas. For libraries, this means that we need to develop more information literacy tools, we need to do training for our users, and we need to provide more opportunities for learning, lifelong learning, whether it's by loaning some of this equipment, such as iPads, or providing streaming or access to ebook collections, provided, of course, that we can continue to get ebooks from our publishers. Trend 2, online education will democratize and disrupt global learning. This trend, I think, is best visualized by looking at the changes taking place in classrooms, the rise of online learning and its effect on institutions. Now, this is both good news and bad news. As educators, advances in massive open online courses, MOOCs, and flexible learning in the flipped classroom setting will undoubtedly create more lifelong learners, providing more affordable and accessible access to educational options for all people around the world. Yet for all of these benefits, educators and administrators are struggling on how to adapt to this new learning model and how disruptive new business models for education could become. And some media reports have said that flexible learning threatens the very existence of universities, perhaps rendering them obsolete in the future. So for libraries, I think flexible learning could be a tremendous opportunity to carve out a niche in supporting these new modes of learning on a global basis. As the American Association of Research Libraries has pointed out, I think the future of research libraries may mean a shift from being a knowledge service provider within a single institution to becoming a partner within the broader ecosystem of higher education. Trend 3, the boundaries of privacy and data protection will be redefined. Now, this is evident from the number of people in this room using your mobile phones. Some of you don't even have wristwatches anymore. When I ask my son for the time, he just pulls out his BlackBerry and tells me the time. I'm sure some of you also use or have seen these new examples of wearable technology. The Google Glass or the smartwatch, which is synced to your phone and to the internet. And as Mei Chen pointed out this morning, with the prevalence of technology in our personal and professional lives, there is a heightened awareness of privacy and data protection. Some fear that this could mark the end of personal privacy. Today, it is technically possible to follow someone in their daily life simply with image recognition, their mobile phone, their credit card, and their internet use. So think of this, what it could mean for libraries. Patrons wearing Google Glass, and I actually saw a pair, and it was in China too when I saw the pair, They're in essence putting all of their fellow users in a library in a physical setting under surveillance. If libraries are safe places, and for some I've heard they're trusted places, and some people also call them sacred places. What will this mean, this change of technology, to that trusted nature of libraries? Wearable tech is the latest new trend, but it does have repercussions, and there will certainly be more of these types of examples of mobile technologies down the road. Trend 4, hyper-connected societies will listen to and empower new voices and groups. And this trend focuses on collective action and empowerment. Technology is leading to open government initiatives, more transparency, and citizen-focused public services. People have begun to realize that by using social media tools, their voices will be stronger and heard, particularly on the international stage. A very recent example of hyperconnectivity and citizen empowerment is the so-called Umbrella Revolution in Hong Kong, as you see in this picture, and which I believe is still underway. These protests are being heard around the world, even though some of the efforts to shut down social media sites have taken place. And an obvious technological change noted in this image, you can see instead of holding a candlelight vigil, students just hold up their mobile phones as torches for a mobile vigil. This umbrella revolution is just the latest example of these citizen-inspired actions, beginning with the Arab Spring about 2 or 3 years ago, which actually did bring down several governments in the Middle East. So libraries have historically been opposed to government censorship. Yet we see examples of filtering of digital information becoming standard government practice in most of our countries. So we really need to think about the impact of these practices on our ability to preserve the truth. I think Mei Chen also used that word, what is the truth in open government, to preserve the truth of the events that are actually taking place. And the 5th trend is the global information economy will be transformed by new technologies. Now, this trend alludes to changes happening in the economy. For example, with changes in scholarly publishing and open access, surely this will impact the business models of the publishing industries in more ways than one. And additionally, we are seeing a rise of other technologies, such as 3D printers and artificial intelligence, which can trigger disruption in global manufacturing industries. If someone could use a 3D printer to make their own teacups, why would they need to purchase them from a local store? So as we have seen in libraries, the changing pace of technology has led to many implications. Making sure technology is available for those at every level of society is only one of them. But we are struggling to continue to provide access to the latest technological innovations. And given the budget constraints many of us have, it will be a tough challenge to meet the demands of what is out there for us. So what do all these trends mean for libraries? During my time as president of Ifla, I was often asked, do libraries have a future? What about the printed book? Is that still going to remain? And I've always said very clearly, very definitely, although the form and the function may change, what libraries have done and always are going to do in the future, that will never change. We will still have libraries and we will still have printed books, at least in our lifetime. So in the fall of 2013, the Association of Research Libraries, which is made up of the 125 largest libraries in US and Canada, they embarked on a strategic thinking and design process to chart a new course for the organization, but also for research libraries. And after a lot of consultation and gathering feedback, just last week, they've adopted their framework for going forward. It is available online, so if you are interested, I'm sure you could find it under the ARL website. I won't say much about it, but it does put research libraries into a whole new game in terms of They are no longer going to be standalone entities. We will have to cut across specialization areas and be interdependent more. And capacities such as communication skills and assessment activities are going to be even more important in the future. Also, some of the changes related to our role, not just access and information providers, but as incubators for new ideas, designers, building new research and learning environments. And these will include all the things I mentioned in terms of the technology. We have to keep up with what's out there with technology. And we have to work with faculty, students, and other partners on campus and in the community. So again, the ARL study is also focused on the need to collaborate. So in my opinion, I see the Library of the Future as a central hub of the community with evolving spaces and services to meet the diverse needs of a very diverse user community. And to meet these changing demands, we will need to demonstrate effective leadership, have sustainable solutions, and be open to new ways of thinking and doing, and in most cases, in collaboration with others. And someone also said to me, we're going to have to need a lot of courage to move forward. We need to take some risks, as most innovative people do, but I think we are up to the task. So we shouldn't underestimate the power of libraries to transform people's lives and therefore change communities and the society. But speed of change is overwhelming, and we need to be aware of the challenges that we face together. 50 years ago, and I wasn't around in libraries 50 years ago, but remember when microfiche and the MARC formats first came along, we thought that was quite revolutionary. And today we're talking about digital objects and metadata and semantic web. So, it does have an impact as well on the changing competencies needed in our profession. We need to ensure that our staff have the skills needed in today's world and that we are offering continuing learning opportunities for them. And LIS, Library and Information Science, Education and Research, will also need to adapt to this dynamic information landscape. And we also need librarians and information professionals to go global. That is, think of their profession in a global and interconnected way. And I was struck by a phrase that I saw in the New Zealand Public Library Strategic Plan 2012-2017, which I've used before, so I was quite surprised to see my phrase used in that plan. I can't remember which one came first, but it is think globally, act nationally, and deliver locally. And I think in the 21st century, libraries are looking beyond their walls, whether physical or virtual. We need to be interdisciplinary, share information and knowledge, collaborate and network to deliver the best possible services. As head of Ifla, I just want to again mention my theme, which I think still resonates with the profession around the world. Increasingly, collaboration is both expected and required among institutions that support learning and culture, and networking with libraries and others, sharing best practices and case studies. Inclusion and convergence are vital to the success of libraries of the future. With inclusion, we not only guarantee citizens around the world have free access to information, but we are also open to hearing ideas, forging partnerships, and creating new connections with those outside of the information industry. And I use the word, I went too far? Yes. I use the word transformation in my theme, and I'm just thinking in terms of transformation of the technology, how quickly that floppy disk has become a USB, and who knows what's going to be coming next. But libraries will stay as the foundation that will guide users forward, whatever the technology brings for us and whatever transformations are required. So I encourage every one of you to think about the values of our profession in a changing world of technology and other factors. I think what endures are the values that we've always shared as libraries and librarians, and that we demonstrate in the scholarly endeavor and to the broader society. And, we can get past those speed bumps that the latest and greatest of hardware and software brings our way. But one thing never changes, and I think that's the values that we have defined over many years. And those values are things like focus on service, satisfying the information needs of our users, irrespective of their background. We believe in freedom of expression and equitable access to information and to quality information, and we collaborate. And so it doesn't matter what size of library you come from, we all embrace similar professional values. So in conclusion, I heard an interesting expression recently that captures, I think, what librarians do best. And this was in a speech given by Canada's Governor General, the Right Honourable David Johnston, who has a digital background as well. He used to be a president of a university, so I think he understands what libraries are all about. He talked about the diplomacy of knowledge, and he defined it as our ability and willingness to work together across disciplines and across borders, and to share the knowledge we uncover and refine to improve the human condition. So when you think about our profession and our values, I think, isn't that what we are all about? Whether we are digitizing our oral histories in our communities, or we're providing lifelong learning opportunities, or we're forming new partnerships around the world to make information more accessible, we are working across borders in collaboration with others. And all of us are setting examples for the next generation of librarians and information professionals, and indeed the world we live in. So I hope that my remarks and examples have inspired you to reflect on the positive impacts and the future of libraries, both here and back home when you get back to your libraries, as we all aim, and I really admire that theme of your conference, as we all aim to connect and thrive. So with that, I thank you very much. Kia ora, and there may be questions. Okay, thank you.